The sirens hadn't even begun their mournful cry when 14-year-old Eli Turner dropped his torn, threadbare backpack onto the scorching gravel and sprinted toward the lifeless girl lying twisted on the roadside, his lungs burning with panic, his heart hammering like it knew with terrifying certainty, that this moment would carve itself into the rest of his existence. The hillside ridge highway shimmered beneath the late summer sun, a wavering river of heat weaving through the stunned silence as the roaring motorcycles skidded to a halt around him, the notorious Hell's Angels forming a trembling ring of leather, steel, and disbelief. Their tattooed arms froze mid-motion, their boots rooted to the asphalt, unable to comprehend the sight of a homeless boy they had seen countless times on the street, skinny, dirt-streaked, invisible to most, now kneeling fearlessly beside their leader's daughter. Eli didn't pause, didn't flinch, didn't think of the danger towering over him. All he saw was a girl, Maddie Brooks, pale and limp, her chest still as stone, and the horrifying truth that if he didn't act now, she would slip away forever. And right there, before the paramedics even arrived, a miracle sparked not with divine light or grand gestures, but with two trembling hands pressing down on her chest, desperate, determined, full of more courage than he ever knew he had. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and humanity showing up in the unlikeliest of places, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from, because your presence here matters more than you think. Eli Turner had never been given anything easy. For almost a year, he had been surviving in the shadows, sleeping behind dumpsters, slipping through alleys, hiding in abandoned houses when the nights grew too cold for his thin hoodie to fight the wind. His mother had slipped away long before he lost sight of her physically, drowned in addiction until one day she simply didn't come back, leaving Eli to piece together survival with scraps of instinct and hope. Each day was a new battle for food, warmth, safety. Yet through every hardship, through every empty night where hunger gnawed at his insides and loneliness carved its name into his ribs, Eli held on to something that most people lost long before adulthood, a soft, stubborn heart that refused to harden. In shelters, he collected forgotten first aid pamphlets, reading them under streetlights like they were tales of mythical heroes, memorizing chest compressions and pressure points not because he thought he would ever need them, but because saving something, anything, made him feel human in a world that treated him like a ghost. But he never imagined those quiet nights of studying would collide with this moment, with the daughter of the most feared motorcycle club lying unconscious beneath him, her life slipping through his fingers like sand. As Eli pushed down on Maddie Brooks' chest, sweat mingling with tears he didn't even realize he was crying, fear locking his jaw while adrenaline steered his trembling hands, he whispered inside his mind for her to stay here, stay alive, stay fighting. And when her body lurched with a sudden, violent gasp, the kind of breath that seemed wrestled from death's grip, the world around him froze in a suspended heartbeat. The bikers staggered back, wide-eyed, whispering curses of shock and disbelief. They had seen violence, chaos, danger, but they had never seen a miracle performed by a boy who had nothing. When the paramedics finally arrived and hoisted Maddie onto a stretcher, Eli backed away, shaking, exhausted. He expected accusation, rage, or threats from the Hell's Angels, men who weren't known for mercy, but instead they only stared at him with raw, silent awe. Rex Brooks, the club president and Maddie's father, stepped forward with a face that looked carved from grief and hope colliding, but before he could speak, Eli bolted. He ran as fast as his legs could carry him, disappearing into the woods like smoke, terrified of what gratitude from men like them might mean and even more terrified of being seen, truly seen, by anyone. For days, the town buzzed like a shaken hive. People whispered about the homeless boy who saved the biker's daughter. Some painted him as an angel with dirt on his cheeks, others dismissed the story as exaggerated gossip, but those who were there, those who saw the impossible, knew the truth. Maddie knew. Rex knew. And the Hell's Angels, bound by codes deeper than law or reputation, were not the type to forget a life debt. Meanwhile, Eli returned to his lonely routines, eating discarded sandwiches behind the grocery store, washing up in the gas station sink, avoiding eye contact with strangers. Yet everywhere he went, people stared a little longer, whispered a little softer. Something had changed. Something in the air, in the looks, in the murmurs that followed him. And then, one evening as the sky burned orange and purple over the rooftops, the unmistakable rumble of motorcycle engines rolled down the narrow alley where Eli sat with a half-eaten sandwich resting in his palms. The Hells Angels had found him. But they didn't bring violence. They didn't bring threats. They brought silence heavy with emotion. Rex Brooks stepped off his bike, his boots echoing against the pavement as he approached. Eli's heart hammered, but Rex didn't bark questions or demand explanations. Instead, he slowly lowered himself to the concrete beside the boy, this broken, resilient, half-starved kid who had saved his daughter, and thanked him with a voice cracking under the weight of a father's near loss. It was not the kind of gratitude spoken lightly. It was a raw, trembling confession of helplessness, fear, and eternal indebtedness. Eli didn't know how to take it. He shrank back, unsure, overwhelmed, ready to flee again, but Rex didn't let him. He placed a steady hand on Eli's shoulder, and for the first time in a long time, Eli didn't pull away. In that quiet, fragile moment, the feared biker and the neglected boy shared a truth deeper than words, that one act of courage can tether two lives together in ways neither could ever undo. Days passed, and life shifted in ways Eli never saw coming. Maddie, bandaged but alive, asked to see the boy who had saved her. When Eli stepped into her hospital room, feeling awkward and out of place, Maddie's eyes filled with tears. She squeezed his hand with a gratitude that carried the weight of a life returned. That moment ignited something fierce and protective inside Rex. He saw the exhaustion in Eli's posture, the hunger hidden beneath politeness, the loneliness etched into his quiet eyes. And it didn't sit right. Not when this boy had breathed life back into his daughter. Not when this kid had no one else in the world. The Hells Angels lived by unbreakable rules, loyalty, debt, brotherhood, and Eli had earned more than a thank you. He had earned a place with them. It started small, gentle, unspoken, a warm meal, a clean jacket, boots without holes. A ride back to town on the back of a motorcycle. Then a guest room at the clubhouse where the men who once terrified him now treated him like a younger brother they had sworn to protect. They didn't tolerate his self-doubt, didn't let him skip meals, didn't let him sink into the mindset he had carried as a street kid. They pushed him toward school, structure, routine. They taught him discipline and respect, but also belonging. Eli found himself surrounded by people who didn't look away from him. People who saw worth where others saw failure. Maddie, recovering quickly, became his closest friend, telling everyone who would listen that Eli didn't just save her life, he gave her hope. But Eli quietly felt that Maddie gave him just as much, pulling him out of the darkness he thought he was destined to live in forever. It wasn't only kindness the Hells Angels offered, it was transformation.